Maria, what sustainability innovation are you most excited about at the moment?
I'm very excited because everywhere I go, I look at the houses and they all have solar panels. And every week there is a new house that has solar panels. And I find that I'm so excited. I'm really thrilled. Now the next step is to see the heat pumps, okay, which I'm starting to see. But I find that what is fascinating is that we see that all the innovation and technology development now is getting to the houses and people can afford it. Even it makes them save on their bills.
And what do you see as the biggest challenge currently in building a more sustainable future?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is the speed. We need to accelerate the energy transition. We need to move from now, I think we invest 1-to-1, so the same amount of fossil fuels than in clean energy. And according to the IEA, we need to invest 4 times more on clean energy than on fossil fuels. In fact, we shouldn't invest in fossil fuels. And that I find is a challenge because it is a massive scale up.
And if you could implement a policy that would actually help us achieve global sustainability and climate goals, what would that policy be and why?
So I think there's a combination of 3 policies. I think we need carbon pricing. We need to price the cost of carbon so that then decisions are made and included. Second, we need to mandate the end of internal combustion engine or the end of fossil fuels at some point. And then thirdly, we need to provide incentives for companies to invest in new technologies.
Great. And how do you think recent momentum on global action on biodiversity can actually be sustained?
I think it's great. Now the movement needs to be built. The companies need to set science-based targets. They need to start to account for their impacts and report to them. This is the first step. And they can also mirror what has happened on climate so that they can learn and go faster.
Great. And finally, looking ahead to COP28, what are some of the key outcomes you would like to see come out of it?
So it's a very special COP meeting because it will be happening in the UAE. I hope we see on the cover text some mentioning to the fact that we need to phase down fossil fuels.
Great, straight to the point. Great, so now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are a little bit more specific to what you actually do at We Mean Business Coalition. So first off, what do you think are the biggest challenges companies actually face when they look to decarbonize their operations?
I think they know their emissions in what is called Scope 1 and 2 emissions, and the biggest challenge is when it comes to Scope 3, to supply chain emissions. They have a lot of difficulties to having the data to understand where those emissions are and to act upon them.
And in that context, how might small, medium, and larger companies actually differ from each other in trying to capture that?
Exactly. So large companies, they have the means to set plans and to decarbonize. Small companies not. That's why we created the SME Climate Hub, which is a one-stop shop for SMEs actually to get a science-based target that is linked to their capabilities, that provides them tools and reporting tools and education tools, etc.
How might they still maintain that competitive advantage? And I guess that speaks to the question of profitability. How might they maintain that whilst trying to kind of decarbonize their activities? What are some of maybe the short-term trade-offs, the long-term trade-offs? Maybe you can speak to that.
So companies that are performing well on sustainability are performing very well on the financial markets. That's the first one. Companies that have a solid sustainability strategy and climate strategy attract talent. They attract clients. They are helpful to providers, and they actually can also get preferential financial instruments. So now, I mean, to be, many businesses, are looking at sustainability as a growth opportunity because it makes business sense.
And I guess maybe building off that, I think sometimes I think profitability and climate action, I think they're increasingly starting to be seen as two sides of the same coin. And so looking ahead, how do you see that, I guess, discussion evolve around how people talk about profitability alongside climate action?
Well, I think now we see that many banks, when they look at their investments in companies, they look, okay, does this company have a science-based target, yes or not? If they have, fantastic. If they not, we're going to tell them to have it. So companies, when they talk to their clients, they're saying, I want you to have a science-based targets because I need you to reduce emissions because you're part of my supply chain. So I think companies see that there is a request for them to decarbonize. But in addition, any company that invested, for example, on renewables in the past 3 years, now it's so happy that they did because they are making so much money comparing to, if they had to use fossil fuels with the volatility of energy prices. So it is not, for the long term, actually, companies are seeing it in the short term, they are seeing it in their P&Ls.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Maria. This was incredibly interesting.